The viewpoints expressed on Night Fright are not necessarily those of the host, the staff, the sponsors, or the affiliate stations. Tonight's program may contain graphic themes or images. Viewer discretion is advised.
There is a time for question. There is a time for answers. There is a time to challenge. There is a time to speculate. There is a time for change. There is a time for truth. The time is now. Welcome to Night Fright, your voice in the dark for paranormal and conspiracy. And now your host, Brent Holland.
Showtime! Welcome to the show. I'm Brent Holland, and oh baby, have we got a show for you tonight. Drop what you're doing, get in your comfy chair. Above all, keep the lights on. Better still, turn them down. We've got a great show for you tonight, folks. We're going to be going on a real live ghost hunting excursion that these two gentlemen who are joining me tonight have written a book on. Now, in most ghost hunting cases, I usually start at the very beginning, but this time, tonight, I'm going to break with precedent, and I'm going to start at the end, or should I say near the end. Halton Hills, I should say, not Haunted Hills, but they indeed are haunted as well. Resides directly between Toronto and Hamilton, just a little bit to the northwest. If you do a Google, you'll find it right away, where a Canadian research team discovered multiple hauntings and were physically attacked, followed into the sanctity of their own homes, and now have refused to step foot back onto the property. Tonight, together, we will look at the dark powers that forced the team to retreat. Now, folks, we're going to have a great show tonight. Get the coffee going, get the tea going, get a beverage of your choice going. Sit back and relax for the next 2 hours as we take you on this great ride. The book is called Meeting Place of the Dead. And indeed, folks, there are multiple dead people there, without question. The author is Richard Palmisano, who is joining us, as well as his fellow researcher, Peter Rowe. Richard and Peter, I want to welcome you to the show. Richard for the second time, Peter for the very first time. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi, Brent. Glad to be here.
And I'm happy to be here for my first time. Thank you.
Okay, I want to start off, thank you for joining us. I want to start off with something. I'm very excited. This is a really creepy book, folks. There's a chapter in the book called Visitations. And when I read it, it was chilling and unearthly. Richard, could you tell us what happened to you in the sanctity of your very home? And then I'm going to ask Peter for his story as well.
Right. You are starting near the end.
Yeah.
But what had happened was these entities would just to prove a point, they would follow us home. They would, in my particular case, terrorize my wife and my dog. Whatever this thing was entered from the back of the house. We have some sliding glass doors. Now the doors didn't open, and there was no, it didn't move the blinds or anything like that. But all of a sudden, it would just, it was there. You could feel that static electricity charge. The hair stood up on my arms, and I felt something there, and all of a sudden the dog whined, and my dog's not a type of dog that whines, but it just stared past me. And I was sitting on the couch, and my wife said, I feel there's something here. I'm feeling really weird. And this thing just played havoc for the evening with us. It retreated from there to the kitchen, and then it attacked my dog, pushed him across the floor, and it was just very unnerving that this thing would come to our house. And I think it was doing such because it was making a point. We were going to its residence, and which it felt in control of. And I think it was making a point. He was going to come to our house as well.
Peter, could you tell the folks what happened to you?
Sure. I think my visits were among the first ones. We'd been investigating there for a better part of 2 months, and there was a period when I was going to this location on my lonesome just to drop off some recording equipment and leave, not investigate formally, but just to record the environment. But during that time, I felt like I was visited by I saw a shadow person step from one room across the hall to the bathroom very late at night one night. Another incident, I had just fallen asleep, and I was kind of between the stages of relaxing my brain and a dream state. But in my mind's eye, I saw, and I'm not very psychic, but I saw a black figure, and something told me it was male. And this figure leaned over me and shouted at me like a coach or an army sergeant and said, "Peter Rowe!" And I was so startled, I sat up in bed and said, "Yes, what?" And sort of in a daze, but that was quite something when I realized, okay, there's nobody here, nobody calling me. So I just went back to sleep, believe it or not. And a third incident that happened was my alarm clock went off prematurely. And I got up and went about my usual morning routine. And when I looked at the real time on the microwave and the clock on the oven, I was about 3 hours early. So I just sort of chalked it up to strange weirdness and went back to bed. But it was soon after that the other members of the team had their own experiences as well.
In your opinion, what's the difference between this nasty spirit and a demon?
Evil or demonic entities will try to look like a child to draw you in to that trap. It's almost
I've heard that many times as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, of course, we had lots of injuries, lots of pains from out of nowhere. You'd just be standing there, and all of a sudden you would get like a shooting pain through your leg, through your back, or in your head. One instance, my brother was working in the basement of the barn, and he started choking. He couldn't see anything, but his photographs were showing that the entire room was full of smoke. And he just took photo after photo, and it was all full of smoke. And then all of a sudden, he headed for the stairway, and the next photo was clear, and he could breathe again. So it was very bizarre stuff.
And there's a very, very good photo of that exact incident in the book. And the book is called, folks, Meeting Place of the Dead. We're talking to two of the team that went into this house on this property. And they were forced out. They were starting to be attacked physically, starting to be attacked emotionally, all of the above. Richard Palmisano is our guest tonight, along with his co-researcher, I guess, Peter Rowe.
The JFK Assassination, the definitive book by Brent Holland. From inside the Oval Office to Daily Plaza, first-person witness accounts. Order yours right now. nightfrightshow.com.
Let's go back to somewhere around the beginning. Let's talk about what happened with Google and how this case came to be. Richard, could you start us off?
We were making a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, to a historical society out in the area, when a lady in the audience, I guess she was sitting there watching or listening, and she approached us, and she had a photograph from Google Street View of her house. And she showed it to us. She said, "You guys are looking, would you look at this?" So we had a look at the photograph. And it was the Google car had passed her house and photographed her property. And there's her house. And there's two entities that we could see. One looking out the window and one standing on the porch. The one looking out the window, he looked like he was dressed in something from maybe the 70s, early 80s. He was a male, older male. And on the porch was an older female, but she looked like she was in period clothing, probably early 1900s. And she was transparent, and her, from the waist down, was extremely transparent, almost non-existent. So we looked at it, and she guaranteed there was no one in the house at the time. And even if there was, and we could explain the male, we certainly couldn't explain the female. So she said, "Would you be interested?" And of course, we were.
You see, now right there, folks, and I say this often, could you imagine somebody saying, "Are you interested in investigating this? These are two dead people. They just happen to hang around here." I would have done a 180 and gone in the opposite direction, but these guys, much to their credit, dive right into it. Now, can you describe the house?
It's just a small little cottage, as it's described in the book. More like a cabin, sort of salt box shape, I guess is the best way to describe it. I'm not very good with square footage, but it's not very large. And it's just outside of the town of Georgetown in the farming country. And growing up here in town, as I said, I passed it millions of times, never really noticed it, and to suddenly see a photograph of this person standing on the front porch, thanks to Google Street View, was just incredible. So there's not only this small cottage cabin-like house there on the property, but there's a barn also on the property that I'm sure you read about a lot, Brent. And
yeah, we'll be getting into that shortly, folks.
and-
Stick
oh, yeah,
around.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not kidding. This thing is electric. Please, sorry to interrupt you, Peter, please.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. We found out as we got into sort of investigating the history of this property that there used to be a shed on site as well, and but that was long since torn down. But what was interesting about that shed was that the current owners, when they tore it down, they discovered an old pistol hidden behind one of the walls in the shed. It was wrapped up in some cloth, and they'd also discovered I think it was an army cot belonging to a soldier, and a satchel from the war, I'm assuming World War II. And they got rid of the cot, not really appreciating the historical significance of it, which many people might do. The satchel is still in the family, but they kept the pistol, and that's in the book as well, and that plays into our story as well. So it's not a very, back to the house again, it's not a very, it's a very unassuming house, I should say that, and one that I've been curious about since childhood, passing it millions of times, and now here we are able to access it, and inside it felt very warm and inviting. And one of the points that I'm sure we'll be making is that the owners, the current owners, feel this warmth, and they said to us right off the bat that it doesn't feel spooky. It doesn't. There's nothing, malevolent or mean or spooky about it at all. As a matter of fact, whenever we have visitors here, they just don't want to leave. They seem like they feel like they want to stay longer.
And
So,
some of them have stayed much longer even after they've passed away.
I think so. I think so.
Well, I've heard that too. That and to me, it's not a bad way to spend eternity. Some people, once they pass away, they go back to the place where they were the happiest to
Absolutely.
spend eternity there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or in visitation, just to check on things and to see how things have been since they left.
Yeah. Going back to the Malavant one, was that a singular entity, or do you think there were several of them that got together that were irritated?
So there was a few. There was a few, and
Okay.
they worked together almost like a team, or
Like a gang, almost.
yeah,
Hmm.
more like a gang of thugs.
Mhm.
But going back to that Google photo, which
Yeah.
was incredible, and I called Google and I asked them specifically for permission to use that photo, and of course, Google will tell you, no, you cannot use any of our material
Yeah, that's right.
ever.
Yeah.
So that was unfortunate. So I made so much noise about this photograph that Google actually sent the car, the street view car, to redo that street and to get that house photograph gone, so I wouldn't bother them anymore. So
Yeah, so they've
they
since
drove
pulled
by
it.
and they took some more photos and they put it up, and there was another photo of the property and some entity walking around the house. There's so many things going on in that property. I mean, you could shoot photographs all day long. You're going to catch something.
Is it, if people wanted to Google it themselves,
I
would you?
couldn't do that.
Okay, don't do it. That okay,
It's just
crossing a line.
the owners.
Privacy.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
because
respect that completely.
they're older
Absolutely.
folks. They just don't want
Yeah.
people coming in, right?
Yeah, otherwise there'll be a lineup around the street, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Okay, let's talk about that wonderful team that you've put together. Peter, do you want to walk us through the team? Your
Oh, okay,
teammates?
sure.
Yeah,
Um, well, well, Richard is one of the original, well, is the original member of the team. Started in 1979 with his brother Paul. Paul is our surveillance analyst. He surveys the video and audio DVDs and tapes that are made every time we do an investigation. So we're talking about hours and hours of work. If you can imagine, you know, an 8-hour investigation and 3 or 4 cameras rolling during that same period of time. So multiply 3 or 4 times 8 hours. He has to go through all that footage and sometimes frame by frame and backtracking it, you know, to make sure he's caught something on both audio and video. It's a huge job. So that's Paul. We have another investigator named James McCulloch. He's fairly new to the team, and he came in later in terms of the story that the book that we're talking about. And he's a great investigator, still learning the ropes and getting lots of experience like the rest of us. Every job is an adventure.
okay.
Let's see, who am I missing, Richard? There's one of our, well, we have a couple of mediums who work on the team with
Yes.
us as well. And
Say their
I
names
think
if you'd like.
as Richard mentioned in the previous interview with you, Brent, we we don't tell our mediums anything about the location,
That's right.
and that was true in this case as well. We just bring them in blind, as you might say, and all of them seem to come up with the same material, the same information and data. Even a guest medium who's not formally a member of the group, she came in and told us things that she had no idea somebody else had told us as well. So it was quite incredible.
The JFK Assassination, the definitive book by Brent Holland. From inside the Oval Office to Daily Plaza, first-person witness accounts. Order yours right now. nightfrightshow.com.
www.nightfrightshow.com. There you will find a book cover of tonight's guest. The book is called Meeting Place of the Dead. Our guests tonight are Richard Palmisano, who is a researcher, a ghost hunter, if you will. I hope that doesn't offend you guys if I call you ghost hunters. It's just, it seems to be a term that's very popular right now.
Yeah,
And
it's popular.
okay, and Peter Rowe,
Just don't call us busters.
I won't call you late for dinner either. And Peter Rowe, who is his fellow researcher. We're talking about their new book. And folks, you will not be bored reading this book. It will give you chills. And, you know, as I look outside, the leaves are off, of course, the trees are bare, and that's always a creepy time of year. It's before the snow. The wind's blowing tonight like all get out, right across Lake Ontario, as I say, as I look outside. The trees are bending. It's a creepy night out there. If you want to settle in and read a good book and entertain yourself and question yourself about all the things you take for granted, this could be that book for you. www.nightfrightshow.com. Just click on the book cover. It'll take you right to a spot where you can order the book from the comfort of your own home. And speaking of that comfort, get the coffee going, get the tea going, get a beverage of your choice going, get in your comfy chair, relax. This is the time for you to take for yourself. We've got a great ride, and we're going to continue that ride right now. The outset of the show, we were talking about this place on the property called The Barn. Just let me read this quote from the book, folks. And this is what's going on here is there's Peter's here, and there's another woman who's doing some medium work as well. But let me just jump into it. Okay, so here they are inside the barn, and Peter asks, does he try to hurt you still? An EVP of a wine is captured. Is he afraid of us? Peter asked. Now they're using a pendulum, and this is a very popular means of communication with the hereafter, where the pendulum can swing back and forth to give a yes answer or a no answer. The pendulum swings to say yes. Is there something in the barn he doesn't want us to find out about? Ooh. The pendulum, a bigger yes. There's an EVP at the same time, folks, of a male grunting, then a cough, and it continues. Peter says, is there something buried under the barn? The pendulum swings even more, a huge yes. Is he afraid we'll find it? The pendulum, off the charts, yes. Will he hurt us if he thinks we'll be getting too close to finding it? Now, I'm going to leave it there. Okay, once again, folks, I got to say these guys impressed me because, first of all, I wouldn't have been in the barn, okay? I would have had the comforter up over my head, okay, sitting in the car with my hand dialed 9-1, all set to dial the next one. How do you go through this tension, Peter, in this particular case, and have the wherewithal to compose yourself to keep asking what I feel are escalating questions and escalating answers that danger, danger, run away?
Danger, danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it's all comes with the territory, really. I mean, everyone on the team is there because they're curious, and to be on the team, you have to be very curious, obviously, and dedicated to doing this kind of work, because it is work. And
sure.
We're certainly not thrill seekers, so certainly situations like that do get tense or thrilling, if you will, and but that's not what we came there to do. We go to these places to do. We're there for answers, and if as you probably noticed, I asked questions that were pretty straightforward, and I guess they could have been perceived as provocative to the wrong person trying to hide something, but we certainly got results. There were some, as you read, there were some interesting readings from the pendulum, and then upon analysis later, it turns out there were voices speaking and grunting and, and sort of, whining, which was very sad, in between the pendulum readings we were getting. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm sure it felt tense at the time, but it was just part of the job.
Part of the job. Richard, what's the most effective way of communicating with the hereafter? Is there one? The pendulum seems to work. EVPs caught on tape seem to work. Is there others as well?
Well, we experiment with a whole host of methods. We'll use the pendulum. We will use the pendulum in conjunction with a Ouija board. We'll replace the planchette, that little triangular thing you push around the board, with the pendulum. So we're working above the board. We will use EVPs, or electronic voice phenomena. What I love to do is to go in there, get a lot of activity going on with the team, which will stir up the spiritual activity of the property.
Good point.
And then we set up audio-video surveillance throughout the house, so 3 or 4 cameras, and then get out of there. Everybody out. Everybody leaves, lock the doors, the windows, close everything down, and go grab some coffee. And it's amazing that there's no one in that house, and this is where you get the best intelligence, is because in any social situation, they'll start to talk. And they'll use first names. They'll go, hey, Brent, watch that. There's a thing over there. Watch that thing. Or there's a camera. Or get back. Or watch out. Or what do you think these guys are doing? And that's the intelligence we're looking for. It tells us that it's not going to tell us everybody in the building, but it'll give us an idea of how many might be there.
Are they cognizant of what you're there for?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Are they cognizant of what you're there for? And do they
A lot of them are.
They are.
A lot of them are. Yeah, we have EVPs where they're warning other ones, watch out, there's a camera. They know what it is.
Huh.
They'll say, watch out, get back. They'll try and avoid it at any cost. But then you need to be just as clever, and you need to get them to be in front of the camera, or don't give them a choice to avoid it. So you got to be tricky. You have to use different methods. So it's a challenge. But I'll give you a side note on the meeting place of the dead, and how I came up with that title is an EVP that we captured. We came into the house one particular Saturday. We set up the surveillance, and then it was just a quick in and out. Set up surveillance, and then get out, head out, grab coffee. Got to get the coffee in. So in my case, it's Pepsi Cola. But so while we're gone, there was a bit of activity in the house, little bits of noises and things like that. Nothing substantial, but something was there. On our return, as we arrived at that back door, a young male reported our arrival to an older female. Her name was Miriam. Miriam lived in the house, and we confirmed that she actually lived in the house years ago. But he reported, Miriam, they're all alive. And she replied, well, thank you. So he's reporting that a bunch of living people are showing up at the door. And when I heard that, I'm thinking, well, what were you expecting? Did you know you're dead and you're expecting other dead people to arrive?
Meeting place of the dead.
And this is where I came up with the title of the book.
Wow. That's goosebump factor time for me anyways, folks. Peter, you were going to speculate on some of this?
Oh, I was just going to chime in and say, that was that was quite a revelation, that EVP. And as you read the book and you listen to us talk about this evening, hopefully it'll get across that there were multiple spirits there, and as it turned out, from different eras, different levels and layers, and many times we found ourselves commenting amongst ourselves, thinking, "Wow, this is like Union Station of hauntings here." They're just people were seriously that they were coming and going. It would seem, just when you thought you'd nailed down a particular era or a person from that era, they were gone the next visit and replaced by somebody else, and it was just incredible.
So they were coming and going.
It seemed, yeah.
Any speculation, guys, as to why this would be a central focal point in perhaps their journeys somewhere? Was it a portal, do you think?
It could have been a portal. It was it was a church at one time.
Oh,
So it would have been a very attractive, very safe
of course.
place to be. And over the years, it fell away from being a church, became a private residence, became a farm, became a rental property, changed hands. I mean, over its long history. When I say a long history, it was built in, I think it was the 1820s. Peter, am I
Mm-hmm. Yes.
close there? Yeah. So it was the 1820s. So, for Canada, that's pretty old.
That is old. Yeah.
So you can imagine the lives that property touched, and
Especially as a church.
as a church. But one thing I've learned about churches is when these things are hallowed ground and they're blessed and they're used for a particular purpose and intent, that's great. When that intent falls away and other things are allowed to use that property and things go on that might be an abomination of the church, for example, abuse or sexual abuse or violence, it's almost a mockery of the church. And that has become very attractive to negative entities. So now you've got all kinds of things in play. It's attractive. It seems warm and welcoming. The community may see it that way. Even though you're dead, you might be drawn to it. But then there's that other element, the darker side, that's dwelling there. And then there's a conflict.
So they use that warmth and invitingness of the church that most churches emanate, without question, to lure other ghosts in, and then all of a sudden they find out that there's a lot of negativity going on.
The JFK Assassination, the definitive book by Brent Holland. From inside the Oval Office to Daily Plaza, first-person witness accounts. Order yours right now. nightfrightshow.com.
Have you come across ghosts that are being abused on the other side?
Absolutely.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and victims are still victims. Perpetrators are still perpetrators. It's gut wrenching to see it. I did my first book. My first book, Overshadows, was that was a tough book. It was a tough haunting. It took me 6 years to get that book written. And it was and one particular case. It was a young boy, and we had surveillance in his house everywhere, audio and video. And the perpetrator his name was Edward. Really nasty guy in life, really nasty guy in death. And I mean a murderer. He was a murderer. And there was a young spirit of a boy. And we were trying to find out what this guy's name was. And this boy blurted it out. And he said, Edward, it's Edward. And you can hear the boot falls on the hardwood floor coming down the hall. Well, nobody's in the house. Just the audio video surveillance running. You hear those boot falls coming down the hall on the hardwood. And all of a sudden this booming voice, did you give him my name? And you hear slap. And the kid's just bawling. And this is on the other side, man. These guys are deceased. And it's just crazy. And I heard this. I listened to it, I don't know, 100 times. And that's the first time I probably ever feared death. Is knowing that's going on.
Yeah, you would we're always taught to believe that once somebody's passed on, it's serenity. It's heaven, quote unquote.
Wow.
Not for these people. Peter, do you ever try to release the ghosts that you come across and tell them to move on to the light? Or is that just an old cliche that's hanging around since the Poltergeist days, the movie?
Well, I don't personally, because I don't have that kind of power. We do wish that anyone suffering on the other side, or the other side of the veil, if you will, we wish them well and hope that they do find peace and move on as best as possible. We're not very big on clearings as far as smudging a place, if you will, and clearing a house and sending them into the light. That's up to the client.
Most hauntings I just find are multiple. Rarely do you find one spirit hanging around. It's usually 2, 3, 6, 12, whatever. And in any social situation. Now imagine you're out and your kids are having some crazy party. They're underage, they're all drinking. They have like 25 friends over. And you come home and now you're very, very upset. And you walk into the house and you tell them in no uncertain terms, everybody out of here. The music goes off and it's get out. In that social circle, the polite ones are the first to step up and go, yep, I got a lot of respect for this guy. It's his house and I'm out of here. Problem is, there's a balance in this house. You've got some good and you've got some bad. Now, the good ones have left because they respect you. You're the boss. Your house. It's that negative guy that's standing off in the corner in the shadows. Has no respect for you, not listening, and he's just brooding. Now, you didn't notice him, but down the road, you're going to have all kinds of problems because there's no checks and balances now. All the good ones have left because that's what you wanted. Now he's got carte blanche. And then we get a call. You don't understand. I had a haunting, and I had a clearing, and now everything's gone crazy here. It's worse than ever. Well, yeah, of course it's worse than ever. Try and get those good ones back. Not going to happen. Try to get him out. That may never happen. So all this smudgy stuff, it's, certain people believe in it. That's great. A lot of belief systems. I don't see anything that smudging is doing except irritating them.
Interesting.
And you can ask people to do this. I mean, it will lighten the energy. Absolutely. If you've got a cool house, you can smudge it, lighten that energy. But if you're going to go to battle with a spirit in your home by smudging, you're asking for trouble because all they're going to do is irritate him. He may leave for a day or two, but when he comes back, you got to pay the piper now.
They'll retaliate. They'll build territorial and start claiming space again.
Absolutely. There's a lot of misconceptions. People think you can bring a priest in and exorcise the house. You cannot exorcise the house, no more than you can exorcise your car. The only thing you can exorcise is a person possessed.
If the house was to be physically removed, would the spirit then dissipate somewhere else?
No, they would still see the house. They
would
still live in the house.
Interesting. So even though it could take on a different form. I'm thinking somebody might tear this old house down and build something else there, say a parking lot, for lack of thinking of something more original. It would still haunt.
You could be driving down the street 3 a.m, look over there and think you're hallucinating because some old lady was sitting above the parking lot on the second floor of nothing there.
The JFK Assassination, the definitive book by Brent Holland. From inside the Oval Office to Daily Plaza, first-person witness accounts. Order yours right now. nightfrightshow.com.
Richard, when did you decide to pull the plug and say, too dangerous, that's it?
Well, I think when we had a medium working in the house, we were working the main floor. We had a surveillance camera just at the top of the stairs on the second level. And the medium, Joan, she was near the bottom of the stairs. And what she described was she felt a presence. This presence near her put its hands around her throat, which caused her to have difficulty breathing, and then took her down to the ground, choking her. So that physical attack was quite horrifying for her. The chilling, if it can get worse, the chilling aspect of beyond the attack was what was recorded on the audio portion of the camera at the top of the stairs, which was a male talking to another male. And it was an older male that we knew was one of the troublemakers. And in a laughing kind of voice, he said, "What did you do?" And the other troublemaking spirit, another male. And I'm not exactly 100% sure of his accent, but he has a heavy accent. And his name was Chican, and he said, "Chican, choke." So it was a big joke to them that he physically attacked this woman.
Is there anything you can do on our side of the line, if you will, to prevent them from doing what they're doing physically to us?
I would say no. If they're going to do this sort of thing, they're going to do this sort of thing.
So we're powerless.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I have a theory that they're not going to kill you. They could make your life a living hell, but they won't. They certainly won't kill you. But you can ask for help from the other side, deceased relative or whatever your belief system is, to come and intervene and on your behalf. And sometimes they're very happy to do that. They'll come down here and give them a what for, and next thing you know, it's quiet.
Now, given this building was a church, and I'll throw this one out to Peter, was there ever any talk or from any of the EVPs about God or Jesus or any type of organized religion that we might know of on this side?
Right. No, I have to say no.
No.
There was nothing like that. I think, personally, by the time we got there and started investigating, that place had long been soiled by whatever had happened there.
Okay.
And we believe it was some heavy violence and abuse.
Do you want to expand on that? Or do you just want to leave that for people to find out in the book?
Oh, I would like them to enjoy that part of the book on their own, if I might.
That's fine. That's fine. No worries.
Whatever was there, sort of that had soiled the location. The people will also, the readers will also discover that it wasn't necessarily human. It might have made it, whatever went on there was apparently very attractive for non-human entities as well. I'll stop short of saying demon, because I don't think they were demons per se, but just some sort of a creature that tried to look human, but probably aren't, which is pretty creepy too.
Yeah, very creepy. Has there, in all your cases, has there ever been any mention of, in the afterlife, of a God, a Jesus, anything along those lines?
Nothing's coming to mind. I've only been doing this for 35 years, so I don't know.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Not nearly long enough.
Yeah, I'm an old guy, but nothing's
there's
coming to
almost
mind.
but you found, Richard, that there's almost a sort of a line that's drawn in the afterlife too, isn't there? That they'll tell you some parts of what it's like on their side, and others we have to find out for ourselves, kind of.
It is a great mystery, and they do keep that mystery. A lot of them, I'd say the majority knows they're dead. We've been told as much. They'll come here and say, "I'm dead, so what do you want from me?"
Yeah.
And,
Peter, I want to stay on this personal motivation thing for a second. If you've had a loved one that's passed away, have you in your own, you can shake this question off if it's too personal. Have you tried have you tried to talk with them and perhaps capture them either in terms of an EVP or something along those lines to communicate with them?
You know what? I've never That's an interesting question. I've never tried to because I've never felt the need. That's a really interesting question. Now I might have to go and try and do that. But
Unless you read.
I have done that, and it's several times. Probably the first time was my father passed away in 1990. We knew that the house that my parents had was haunted from the day we moved in. But it seemed more so after his departure. And I had a medium and my brother, and I asked my mother, I said, I'd like to come in and just spend an hour. Is it okay? And she said, yeah, go ahead. And we came in and we went to the basement. And I started recording and tried to make communication. And I got one word on recording. And I played it, and it was a huge emotional situation because I recognized the voice. There's no doubts about it. This was my father's voice in the house he used to live. But I didn't know what he was saying. It was one word, and I didn't get. There was no way I could get it. I just didn't understand it. So I had to make a decision. Here I have a recording of my father's voice, who's deceased. Do I take it to my mother, his wife, and let her hear this? It's going to be an emotional situation. I didn't know at the time how emotional it was going to be. And I decided, for science, I have to do this. So I asked her, I have a recording, do you want to hear it? And she said, yeah. I played it. And she had this look. So I rewound it, I played it again, and then the waterworks started. And then I discovered from her, when she revealed, that one word was her nickname when they were dating.
Wow.
How much proof do you need? For me, that tells me everything.
Did that? I know it was very upsetting for her at the time. Was there comfort that was given to her because of that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Glad to hear that.
She felt comfort that he was there.
Okay. When you pass over and you finally go to the light, once you're in that light, whatever that the definition of that is, does your consciousness stay with you, or does that dissipate and everything just becomes, if you will, white light, white noise?
That's a huge question, and we need to first find out what that light is. Is it the other side? And what is the other side?
Yeah.
Is it another reality? Is it the operating room where you're coming out of the womb again? Is it... What could it be? So we need to understand what that light is. I think I'm going to be putting it up on YouTube eventually.
Okay.
But I believe I have a film of the light, the white light.
How did you get that?
It was in a childhood home. This was the childhood home and that we lived in back in the 60s. And my aunt owned it, and when she passed, she willed it to my brothers and I. So we renovated the house. During the renovation work, there was nobody in that house. So I knew it was haunted because that's where this all started. And I put surveillance in that house. And one evening, around midnight, my brother was working late there. Doing painting. And he called it a night. He said, that's enough. And he set the recordings up. Going back, this is how far back it is. It's on VHS tape. And he hit record, and he left one light on in the hallway. We had a chair with a Raggedy Ann doll sitting on it at the other end of the hall, just as a something to draw the energy, because I believe there was my cousin in that house as well. And we wanted to see what would happen. Now, nothing happened with the doll or the chair, but a little black line would shoot up the wall, and then this line would split open, and it would tear a hole in the wall And in that hole was this bright light, and you could see things moving in it, and it was so intense, it was unbelievable. And yet, this light was not casting neither shadow nor reflection on any other wall, any other surface, on the floors, nothing. And then it would close back to this black little line and it would dissipate and gone. And then, in a few minutes, it would start again, only this time closer to the camera. And it does this for an entire hour, opening and closing, all the while moving along this wall to the far end of the house, which is the closest point to the camera. Incredible film. And I want to get it up on YouTube.
Jeez, yeah,
and
I'd
I've
love
had
to see
film, I've had film directors look at this. I've had specialists look at this. And they said they could not find any way to debunk this film. Specifically because of that black line that starts. If it was just a light on the wall, sure, there'd be a million sources. But it's this black line that starts the whole thing, the whole process. Apparently, to these professionals, it's an impossibility.
Have you ever had a medium that you've worked with who's been able to communicate or receive from inside the white light? I'll put this to Peter.
I don't think so. I don't know if of anybody we know, Richard, that can do that per se. No, there isn't a perfect medium. I'm sure you heard the term happy medium, but there are no perfect mediums.
The two of you, tonight?
That can sort of.
Who's the straight man, though? That's what I want to know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, as a side note, we do have some fun on investigations as well. I mean, it's not to the detriment of the investigation by any means, but you can't go into these things too stiffly. But back to the medium question. No medium can do it all. They kind of specialize. They are clairvoyant or clairsentient, clairaudient. Some of them get images that they share with us. Some of them get feelings, and then that's how they share their information. But as far as the white light goes, I personally have not come across anyone who's said, you know what, I'm picking up on a white light right now. I think I want to tell you about it. That's never happened in my experience so far.
Folks, we're going to have to wrap up now, but I want to thank my two guests tonight, Richard Palmisano and also Peter Rowe. They're both members of a great, I keep saying troop, a great ghost hunting group out of the Greater Toronto area, for lack of a better way of putting it, called The Searchers. And you can find, do you have a website, guys?
Yeah,
we do.
Go ahead, Pete.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say we do. It's The Searcher Group, all one word, .ca.
Okay, and I'll put that also on our website, folks, www.nightfrightshow.com. The book, of course, is Meeting Place of the Dead, A True Haunting. And you will not be disappointed in any sense if you get this book, folks. It will give you goosebumps and chills, and you'll get into more detail about all the things that took place that required this group to step back. Imagine stepping back from, you go out on the weekend and you're forced to step back from the research that you're doing, the investigation you're doing, because the entities are starting to visit your home and cause havoc physically on you and also emotionally. It's terrifying. What are your plans, guys? Do you ever plan on going back, or is that it?
Believe it or not, against my better judgment, the team has convinced me to go. So we're going to go, and so we're going to see. Maybe there'll be book 2 coming.
Wow.
And or maybe my obituary. I don't know what. But
just don't say that. Any apprehensions, Peter, about going back?
There were some, but I think my curiosity will probably get the better of me. Okay. So we'll take it easy and case by case, investigation by investigation, and see how it goes.
How are you going to handle it differently? We've only got about 15 seconds.
We're going to go slow and safe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any signs and you just back off right away.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, please do come back, guys, and thank you so much for writing this book and sharing it with us tonight. I'm Brent
Thank you for
Holland.
having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Trust me. This has been great for me. This was a very, very good show. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. And congratulations on your book.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Very kind of you to say
Terrific.
so.
Terrific.
Seriously. I'm Brent Holland from Night Fright. See you all next time.
You're listening to Night Fright and your host, Brent Holland. The time is now. Your voice in the dark for paranormal and conspiracy.
The JFK Assassination, the definitive book by Brent Holland. From inside the Oval Office to Daily Plaza, first-person witness accounts. Order yours right now, nightfrightshow.com.